success in a seasonal plan, and then he went 5-0, winning the provincials. Jordan, we talked about the creation of a culture and referred to Gardner McDougall's achievement in short-term competition. Um, and Barry shared his experiences and Hockey Canada experiences in shorter term competition and things they've done. I wonder if you could relate to your own personal experience with your club team last year, and then possibly talk a little bit about your experience with Dom and the two female teams that went to Boston. Jordan?
Hi, Wally. Yeah, sorry I joined a little late this morning with being in Boston for the last week. For some reason, the grass didn't stop growing and the yard work didn't do itself. So I'm outside right now enjoying this conversation and that. So it was, the season. This season was, as you're well aware, because we were fortunate enough to have you engaged in working with our team this year, was an interesting one. I know it's most that are on this call have heard this story before, but only a week leading into camp, and I thought, well, I had a couple of years of COVID learning through the Sharks that I was going to put to the test, and the biggest one was in selection of players, and it was one of those ones where I just looked at character. And we talk about what's going on in the hockey world today, and hockey culture and what's been allowed to happen. Well, if we all only selected on character, probably some of those things wouldn't be happening either. Or if everybody that's involved is involved for the right reasons, then maybe some of these things we're not talking about them a decade or two later of what had happened. But that being said, I was very fortunate to go through the process and select kids that I found. It was one of those ones where, of course, I've been involved in evaluations many times, and I took a little different view on it this year, in that instead of watching the players from the stands as much as many evaluators do, I went on the bench and I wanted to interact with all the kids and see how they interacted with one another, and that gave me a real window into what they were like as people as much as they were as players. So fortunately, we selected the team and got into the season, and then it turned into more of what Wally talks about a lot, and the transmission of belief, because of course as a coaching staff we felt we had a really strong group of kids put together, and it was just getting them to figure that out. And it took a little while. We had a couple of key things that went on, some adversity through the year, and when we got through that, as you all know, that adversity is what really brings them together, and the kids kind of came together really well at the end of the year, and they went on a nice little hot run that took them through playoffs and provincials. But so it was a real fun year. It's one of those ones that I said to the kids at the start of the year that we all have a choice in making this the difference between a good year and a special year, and it's our commitment to one another and what we do. And so a bunch of the kids came up to me at the end, and of course we all like to be told we're right, and they told me that that they would always see this as a special year. So that was one of the things I'll take away from it. And the other one was something that Daryl Belfry was talking about with his early years of coaching till later on, and talking about always wanting the kids to, wherever they are later in life, want to acknowledge you when they see you on the street, not turn their backs and go the other way. And I think that that's that character people piece, that you want to be everything you can for them, and you want them to be everything they can for their teammates. So I hope that answers your question on that one, Wally. On the other side of things, yes, I was just in Boston for the Beantown Classic, and that was a real eye-opener. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Dom Pittis is, as many of you know, is starting an academy in Stockton, California. The academy at St. Mary's had a boys division, but he's working to bring in the female division, and this year will be its first full year of play. They're really interested in joining the Canadian Sports School League because cost of travel and everything being in Canadian dollars up here, it makes sense. So they will be up here quite a bit this year. But the Beantown Classic he had the opportunity to split his current team into two, and he asked if we'd round out the roster with if I could help him round out the roster with some Alberta kids. And so I leaned on a bunch of coaches out there to get kids, and so we had two teams down there, one in the 2008 division and one in the 06-07 division. And it was really interesting to see the difference between the California players and the Canadian players in everything from the way that they approach the game to the way that they play the game, which Dom found invaluable. And then the other piece with it was, like I said, that I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Was you walk into, it's the biggest rink I've ever been in, with 8 surfaces, 8 full-size surfaces and 2 little mini rinks. There were over 1,000 players in the 2 divisions, 40 teams at the 06-07 and 26 in the other, and over 100 coaches. And then you add the parents and the post-secondary schools that are there watching. It was quite an event, and people were just coming and going at all times. And it was also interesting on the other side of having two 22-minute periods rather than what we're used to up here with 3 20s and 2 floods. So, but all in all, it was a pretty good experience. But you talked about, Wally, the entitlement piece, and that piece down there. It was really, it is really interesting to see, because our sport is becoming a little bit elitist because of who can afford to do it. And it's when Dom's talking about ice being $6.50 a minute in California, you know that it costs quite a bit to run a program. So that cost, of course, gets borne by the parents, and so who can afford to do that? So it ends up being people with deeper pocketbooks, or people with lots of debt at some point in time, I guess. So it's like I said, it was really interesting to see. There were some really good teams there. We ran into the last team that our 06-07s played were a group that Minnesota Machine. Hal might know that. They're a group that kids that play together year round and have played together for a few years, I guess. But it was interesting, our composite group playing against them and some of those. So it was great experience. And one of the parents was there said to me, "Have you ever seen so many female hockey players in one place?" And I said, "Nope." And he said, "Isn't that a great sight?" And I had to agree with him that the sport of hockey is, of course, a passion to all of us, but to see the female game growing the way it is absolutely amazing too. So